So, guys, you remember that last week we did an update about Lieutenant General Mapaha of the South African National Defence Force and his utterances during the funeral of the 14 soldiers that were killed in the DRC. And in this speech, one of the things that Lieutenant General Mapaha focused on, it was our national security and the fact that the politicians in this country are not serious about our national security. And we remember how angry the ANC was. The ANC basically sent out Dankota Lekwete to go on the mainstream media to basically try to decampaign Lieutenant General Mapaha, to make it seem like General Mapaha is naive. So if you have forgotten, this is what General Mapaha basically said during that funeral.
What I'm going to say here, I may be trampling on some cones, so please pardon me, Premier, and the parliamentarians that are here. All of you know that South Africa, in its position in the world, we are a global player. In Africa, we are the leader in terms of economics and geopolitics. And therefore, we are considered a big brother. No, you cannot be a big brother if you are unable to wield a stick that will make people be afraid. Now, you may be asking yourself, what is he talking about and all that? How many of you will build a beautiful and expensive house and not fence it and protect it? I don't think none of you will do that. Constitutionally, the South African National Defence Force is mandated to protect and defend the country. Now, any home will display its character, its worthiness, by the level of security that it places around it. Now, if we're going to play big brother in Africa, and therefore, what we give for the Defence Force should symbolize that. A lot has been said about the South African National Defence Force not being well equipped, not being resourced and all that. I'm not going to get into that, but I'm saying, and I'm appealing to the politicians that are here, that next time you sit down and debate, think whether you are protected or not. Because that grant that you're giving to the people out there, the education of your children and everything else will not materialize if you're not protected. I'm sure many of you know that we are sharing our grants for the poor with people who are not supposed to share the grants. And that is because we are not protected. Our borders are porous. And they're porous because you, the politicians, have decided you want a Mickey Mouse Defence Force. I'm sorry to say that. And by the way, the Adjutant General is here. I'm protected. I'm not making a political speech, by the way.
So this is what General Mapaha basically said during the funeral of those 14 soldiers. So the ANC was not happy, and you can see that even the people that are working in the mainstream media, you can see this lady here. So Fimukwena, I think she's an international editor at SABC. She was also shocked, and she said that, wow, this statement from a general. So she was also shocked that how can a general basically go out and tell the truth. So not only the ANC was pissed, even the journalist of the SABC. And I mean, we know when we look at the SABC is just an extension of the ANC. That channel is basically pro-ANC. So I'm not surprised that someone like Sophie Mukwena basically went out and was shocked that the general could actually speak the truth. So the ANC was not very happy about all of that, all of those utterances by the general. This is the reason why, you remember when this guy, Dakota Lekwete, went on Newsroom Live, he was basically interviewed about the same thing that the general has basically said, and Dakota went on Newsroom Live, and this is what he said.
Okay, so you're saying with the general speaking like this, it means that the country is in trouble. What are you going to do about it as the Committee for Defence and Military Veterans?
Look, obviously, this is the matter of the executive. We will play oversight over this. the minister and the chief of the National Defense Force must intervene, because we can't have generals who speak recklessly like this. We know, even in other countries, generals can't speak as they wish, because a general is a person of privilege who has the military capability and capacity to can cause instability in the country. So for a general to speak and cast aspersions on the trust between the establishment and its people, it's a problem. And I would wish that this general, or even the military command council, can rein on this general, and these generals must start to do their work. You can't complain about the safety of borders when it's your responsibility, when you are paid by taxpayers to ensure that you defend the territory, you defend the republic and the people. You are the one complaining.
But is that the right approach, Chairperson, considering once again that maybe perhaps he shouldn't have been speaking out loudly like this publicly, but the content of what he is saying and the content of what he's speaking to seems to speak to the reality of soldiers on the ground, one, but also the experience of South Africans when it comes to porous borders. He goes on to say this: if we are going to play Big Brother in Africa, and that's the point that has been stressed before, if we're going to play Big Brother in Africa, what we give to the Defence Force should symbolize that. I'm saying to the politicians, next time you sit and debate, think of whether you are protected or not. So it doesn't necessarily speak about competence, but it speaks about what this general, who is a Surgeon General of the South African National Defence Force, is saying that there is a problem.
No, look, a general by privilege can directly speak to the chief of the National Defence Force, to the minister or the deputy minister. He can speak even to us as a portfolio committee every time they appear on us. Now, for a general who has the responsibility to defend those borders, to complain, without him doing his responsibility, without him doing a proper plan, without him and his collective not doing their work to ensure that our borders are safe, because people are paying taxes, which pays the general's salary to defend them, to defend their territory, and to defend their borders. So it can't be a general complaint. The problem is that what he's saying is correct, but he did not have a sense of occasion. Where he said it's wrong, and secondly, he's a person of privilege who can speak directly to the authorities because he's part of the establishment. For him to talk anti-establishment statements in a funeral, it creates doubt and trust deficit between the state and its people. And it's wrong for it to be said by anybody who's wearing a uniform. There must be protocol, there must be decorum, there must be doctrine. We're running a national defense force. It's not also a Mickey Mouse establishment or a private company of a general.
So you can see how angry the ANC was with the general basically going out and telling South Africans the truth. So right now, the ANC is not happy about the fact that this guy was basically speaking against the establishment. These are the words of Dankotelo Khwete. So the ANC basically faced a lot of criticism from the people to say that, how can you guys try to decampaign the general when he's basically saying things that we feel as the average citizens, whatever that the general said during that funeral of those 14 soldiers, it was the truth. This is something that South Africans are actually speaking about. So the ANC faced a lot of backlash after attacking the general on numerous times. But it seems like the ANC is not happy at all. It seems like they are on a serious campaign to basically try to assassinate the character of the general and to try to make him look like he is basically insane, because after that backlash that the ANC basically received from the public, no, the ANC, it is still not enough. The same person who was on Newsroom Live now went to SABC to speak with Clement Manyathela. And guys, let's see how it went.
So government is often in the habit of telling us what they want us to hear. It's seldom that you have officials that call a spade a spade. And I say kudos to General Mapaha for calling a spade a spade.
I mean, like, this is what people are saying. People are basically thankful that someone so powerful, someone that is there with those people is basically out telling South Africans that, guys, we are vulnerable. As much as Dakonta Lkhwete says that, no, this guy is paid by the taxpayers to protect the borders, how can he go out and basically tell the people that the borders are porous when he's been paid by the taxpayers to ensure that the borders are safe? These are the people that are making it look like whatever that is happening in the borders, it is not their fault. It is not their fault. It is the fault of the generals. Maybe it is the fault of us, the citizens. So the general went out to say that, no, guys, we are not going to play a big brother around in Africa when we have a weak military. This is not what we are going to do. We are not going to play a big brother when we have the porous borders, when the people that we are poking outside can simply get into the country and cause a lot of damage. We are not going to do that. So if these politicians want to sit down and debate, they must think if they are protected or not. And I think that line was very important from the general to say that if you politicians want to debate, you must think if you are protected or not.
Right? As the saying goes, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. And I hope the politicians have heard from someone within and will do what is right and make decisions that lead to our safety and protection. On one hand, he has a responsibility to bring to attention these critical issues that affect our national security. On the other hand, as a high-ranking military official, publicly criticizing the government is seen by others as undermining the chain of command. So the question we're asking you tonight is, do you see anything wrong with what Lieutenant General Nchabeni Mapaha said? The SANDF committee chair in Parliament, Dakota Lkhwete, wants action to be taken against him for telling this truth. Do you agree with that? And do you think that he was wrong to express what he has expressed? You can share your thoughts with us by sending us a WhatsApp.
Me, guys, personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with the general and what he said. Me, I believe that right now, what is happening in this country, this is a battle for the soul of this country. So it is going to depend where people are going to take the sides. I'm going to take the side of the truth and the honest truth. And it looks like the general has also taken a side of the truth. So these people that are going out and saying that, no, you are undermining the chain of command, these are the people that want the general not to say anything about these things that are happening. But it seems like even the general understands that right now we are fighting for the soul of this country. So we are going to tell the truth despite these people being unhappy about us telling the truth. We are going to tell the truth. We are going to step on some uncomfortable toes. But this is what we will have to do so that this country can basically be saved. So this is the battle for the soul of this country. So these people that are talking about the chain of commands, they simply want the general to be shut up. Just like the ANC, Dankota Lkhwete basically says that action needs to be taken against this man. He says that action needs to be taken against a person that is basically telling the truth about what is happening in the country. Guys, do you understand how insane that is? They want action to be taken against someone who is basically telling the truth about what is happening in this country.
WhatsApp voice note on 078 459 1897. Remember to tell us your name and surname and where you're sending the voice note from. And please keep it at 30 seconds. Alternatively, you can send us an X on @FaceTheNation SABC. We'll be back after this.
Get ready for unmatched realism from the...
Seriously, guys, like that is insane. Can you just imagine demanding action to be taken against someone who is basically telling the truth? Like, it is unbelievable. At least if the general was basically telling the lies. You know, if the general was there telling the lies and the ANC coming out and saying that this person needs to be held accountable, I would say fine, hold him accountable, because right now what he's doing, he's telling the lies. But this guy is basically telling the truth. He's talking about what even we as African South Africans are talking about. He even used the plain language, the plain English that African South Africans can actually understand. But no, according to these people, according to the ANC, they say no, he has no right to do that. This guy is basically undermining the chain of command, so he shouldn't even have told the truth.
Welcome back. Now, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans, Dakota Lkhwete, says comments made by Lieutenant General Nchabeni Mapaha referring to the South African National Defence Force as a Mickey Mouse Defence Force only serve to create anxiety and doubt. Legoete believes that such remarks will further widen the trust deficit in government. He joins us now in studio. Thank you so much for making time for us, Mr. Legoete. Good evening.
Good evening to you and all the viewers at home.
Why have you taken issue with what Lieutenant Mapaha said?
Look, it's not like we're taking issue. We are a portfolio committee that plays oversight on matters of defense and military veterans. Now, a general or a senior officer like a general, it's a person of privilege and a person of interest in terms of intelligence language or military language. Now, for somebody of that senior level to say other things which are anti-establishment can lower the morale of our soldiers, and it can also further create a trust deficit between the state and its people. And
I mean, guys, if we are being honest, how can the utterances of Lieutenant General Mapaha lower the morale of the soldiers when the soldiers actually know what is happening? Whatever that the general has said, it is not something new to the military. The people that are in the military, they know about all of these things that the general has basically said. So why is this person sitting on a national television and saying that the utterances of the general can actually lower the morale of the soldiers? The soldiers know themselves. They know themselves that the country is not safe. They know themselves that our military is a Mickey Mouse military. They know that themselves. They do. It is not like these people cannot see what is happening. They can see what is happening. So I don't understand why is Dankonda on national television basically saying that the utterances of the general can lower the morale of the soldiers, whereas the soldiers know exactly what is happening. They know what is happening.
Unfortunately, is that some of these things are said in occasions which are not correct. When there is a funeral, we are mourning. We need to go there to console the bereaved family. And I don't think it's a platform that we need to use for other things, especially things that has to do with our lines of operations.
Based on what he said, though, was he lying?
Based on what he said, it was correct, but the occasion was not the correct occasion because it was a funeral. If he has to say anything about the state of the National Defense Force, he's a member, as a general of the Military Command Council. He can say those things there.
And maybe he's been saying them, he's not being listened to. Why must he be concerned about a sense of occasion when soldiers are dying and when families of the soldiers in the DRC are dead worried and wondering whether or not they will see their loved ones again?
Look, there's what we call military doctrine or military law, where soldiers commit to serve the nation, to be non-partisan, to respect the elected leadership, to respect the Constitution. Now, we don't create doubt in terms of our service to the nation because we know a soldier, even though it sounds insensitive, a soldier may perish in the call of duty. And as that happens, we need to be sensitive of what we say because in South Africa, unfortunately, we are a constitutional democracy where authorities can make reckless statements. The state can be held liable for litigation for any negligence or any doubt on the system.
Except he hasn't made any reckless statement. He's just told you, as you admit, it's just the truth. And unfortunately, government has not been effective in its communications. And I think politicians have always tried to save face. And here's one person in the SANDF who not only speaks from experience, but is saying what politicians whose responsibility is to oversee and lead their departments are refusing to admit.
And again, you can hear from Dankota that he wants the general to basically say these things behind the scenes. So what these people are actually angry at, they are not angry at the fact that the general has basically said those things that he said. They are angry with the fact that the general has basically said those things out in public. That's why he says that no, we have these offices, we have the board, we have the what, and if the general basically wants to say these things, he can say these things behind the scenes. They are not happy with the fact that the general has basically said those things out in public. The general has confirmed what millions of South Africans have already know. The general has basically said that I am on the side of the people and I'm going to say what the people are saying. They are not happy with that. This is what actually makes these people very furious. This is what makes them furious, because it is the truth. So if it is the truth, why do you guys have a problem with the general going out in public and telling the truth? Why are these people so pissed off with the general telling the truth? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't.
As you admit, it's just the truth. And unfortunately, government has not been effective in its communications. And I think politicians have always tried to save face. And here's one person in the SANDF who not only speaks from experience, but is saying what politicians whose responsibility is to oversee and lead their departments are refusing to admit.
Look, the point that he raises on the porous borders, it's part of the responsibility of the National Defence Force to defend the territorial integrity of the country. Now, it's part of his responsibility, so it's not that he needs to cry foul. If there are people who are illegal and undocumented, they must be arrested and be deported by officers of law, including himself. So it can be possible that somebody who has the responsibility, who's paid through taxpayers' money to do his responsibility, can cry foul. It's for instance, in the case of us as lawmakers, we can't cry foul because between citizen, between system or establishment, it's us who need to give direction. And that's why we can't allow a situation where somebody who has a position of trust can say other things, because families of the bereaved people, they don't know how their kids perished. We have not fully received the report, and already there are other things which are said.
And you've not been transparent with them. I mean, even with how the...
And guys, before we speak about the families of the deceased soldiers, and right now you have Dankota Lokhwede basically saying that if there are people that are undocumented in this country, it is the job of the lawmakers and even the military to arrest these people and send them back. But again, Dankota Lokhwede basically believes that we as the people are stupid. They are smart and we as the people are stupid. Because right now, as we speak, through Bela Bill, Ramaphosa has legalized the illegal foreigners in this country. How is that so? Through the Bela Bill, the children of undocumented foreigners can actually be enrolled in schools without providing any sort of documentation. So, if you're going to have these children enrolled in public schools without providing any sort of documentation, there is no way that the military can arrest the parents. They cannot arrest the parents because Ramaphosa, through the Bela Bill, he has legalized the illegal foreigners in this country. So you cannot arrest the parents and leave the children at the school. It is impossible. It is impossible because right now, if you're going to arrest someone and this person says that I have 2 children that are attending at that public school, there is no way you're going to arrest that person. You can never arrest that person because the Bela Bill says that every child must be enrolled in school. It doesn't matter if this is a child of an undocumented foreigner. So if you are going to arrest the parents, how do you expect these children to be taken care of? You expect the children, the parents of these children to take care of these children. So they have legalized the illegal foreigners in this country. They have legalized the illegal foreigners in this country. So the lawmakers, the people that are enforcing the law on the ground, the police and the military, they cannot do anything about the illegal foreigners right now. And this is a fact. They cannot do anything about that. They cannot do anything about it. So he cannot sit there and say that illegal foreigners can be arrested and be deported, basically. No, it is impossible. Because right now, the illegal foreigners are just bringing their children. And as soon as your children are there in school, you are legal in the country. You are legal.
Can say other things, because families of the bereaved people, they don't know how their kids perished. We have not fully received the report, and already there are other things which are said.
And you've not been transparent with them. I mean, even with how the bodies of their loved ones got here. You remember when you had the minister and the deputy in parliament and the SANDF general. Remember they told you that the bodies are coming tomorrow, the repatriation. The families didn't even know. They heard from the news. So the point here is, with all due respect, I disagree that you can't cry foul. If you have a responsibility and the state doesn't support you, you've got every right to cry foul. I work for the SABC, I do the show. If they didn't provide this chair for me to sit and talk to you, I have every right to cry foul, because this chair helps in the execution of my responsibilities. This is a general who says our borders are porous. He says we don't have capacity to, in fact, defend the whole fence when you go to any of our borders. Why can't he express that if he's not being listened from within? And we know he's not listened from within, because what have you actually done as government and parliament to ensure that our borders are safe?
Good. Look, as the parliament, from our side as portfolio committee, we do approve budgets which are supposed to assist generals, including the department, in the operations of their work. Now, you will know, as a portfolio committee, we don't deal directly with generals. Generals deals with the executive in the form of a minister, deputy ministers, or even the president as the commander-in-chief. So there is what we call a military command council, where general meets either to discuss the safety of the country on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. They have an opportunity as people of privilege or interest to raise those things there, because once they raise them in public, we have over 2,000 troops in the battlefront in DRC. We have others injured. We have 14 who have perished. It creates an impression that we are a divided nation or a divided military, and it may give opponents of our country or our republic an upper hand, because we look weak and meek to an extent that those who are supposed to lead the charge are complaining in public. It's not done. Even yourself, whether you have a furniture here or you don't have a furniture or you do not get your salary, it's not a matter that you can take to the public. We know what happened in SABC, we had to intervene as parliament.
But I work for the public. The SABC is a state institution. I can actually tell, I can express that to the public.
Yes, you can express that to the public, but I know what happened, because I was part of the workers at that time.
Okay, so I'm a little worried, Mr. Lekwete, about the obsession we have with protocol, which I absolutely understand, when we have soldiers that are dying, when we have families that are worried about the lack of transparency and information.
And again, like, does Dankota Lekwete basically thinks that it is the general fault that this information is out there? The people that are the enemies of this country, they know that we are weak. They know that we are weak. It is not because of the general, it's because these people, I think they can do their own investigations and actually see what is happening in this country. So we cannot blame the general and say that if the general is going to go out and say all of these things, he's going to make our enemies aware that we are weak. Even them in government, they have said a lot of things that have made us look weak. They have said a lot of things that have made us look weak. How many statements has the Minister of Defense has made to make the South African National Defense Force look weak? How many statements has Bantu Holmisa made to make us look weak? They know that we are weak. The enemies of this country, they know that we are weak. The people, if the enemies of this country want to attack South Africa today, they can attack us today, because they know that we are weak. They can see the problem that we have with the porous borders. They can see what is happening with the crime, especially that involves these people that come outside of this country. They can see that we are weak. They can see. I mean, Ramaphosa is busy poking Israel, is busy poking. Do you think that the IDF doesn't know that South Africa is weak? Of course they know. Of course they know. They don't.
Coming from government, I don't think any of what General Mapaa said actually somehow positions us as weak. In fact, when you listen attentively to what he says, I'm appealing to you as politicians. This is someone who clearly has tried to raise this in the right channels within the department. He says, I'm appealing that when you talk about budgets for the SANDF, remember that we can't speak of an SANDF that is strong, but we still have budgetary constraints. We still have resources constraints. That's what he's saying. He's not saying we are weak, come and attack us. He's saying politicians, I'm appealing that hear us. What is wrong with making an appeal that is going to save you and I and the rest of South Africans at the end of the day?
Look, a military or a defense, it's a different ballgame from journalism or media or communication. It has a part of intelligence on it and espionage. It has part of capability on it. And whatever you say in military terms can be used against you as a state, either to attack you or to undermine you. So it's very much important that a proper decorum, a proper discipline is maintained in the defense force, because there we don't deal with cameras and other things. We deal with machines which are very dangerous. We deal with artillery weapons which are very dangerous. We deal with chemicals which are very dangerous, and we deal with communication, even interception, which is very dangerous. So whatever you say, whoever who's an opposition to your country, an adversary to your country is watching. And whatever you say in a position of responsibility can be used against you in military terms.
The SANDF minister was here on the show. She told me that there are not enough helicopters, SANDF helicopters. She said there are not enough ships.
Yes.
That's compromising information. Are you calling on action to be taken against her as well?
Look, everybody now in our country, we would want to implore them to be sensitive, because we still have over 2,000 of our soldiers in the DRC. So whatever we say here or do, which is seen by other sides or opponents of our country, it can be used. I don't mind anybody saying or raising concerns on our mission, but we need to be sensitive to the lives of our soldiers who are still on the ground, to their families. We have lost 14.
But he's not answering the question. He's not answering the question. Do you want the action to be taken against Angie Motshekga after she has went on television to say that we don't have enough resources? Do you want action to be taken against her the same way you want action to be taken against General Mapaa? Do you want action to be taken against Angie Motshekga? This is the question. Because right now they are doing a lot of interviews saying that Lieutenant General Mapaa must be held accountable. There must be action taken against General Lieutenant Mapaa because he has revealed to our adversaries that we are weak. But if they ask him the same question concerning Angie Motshekga, the well-equipped, the well-qualified Minister of Defense, and her utterances about our lack of resources in the South African National Defence Force, do you want the same thing to be done with her? Now he's busy beating around the bush.
And it's too many. And we can't encourage a situation where we can allow a loose talk when we have soldiers at the battlefront. Least we can do is to rally behind our soldiers, to rally behind our National Defence Force and support them in these trying times.
So what do you make of what the minister said, though? Because you've called on the Military Command Council to rein in this general. You're urging the Defense Ministry and the Presidency to intervene in handling the general statements. What must happen to the minister? Because the minister was on a public platform as well, talking about the capacity constraints that exist within the SANDF.
Look, the minister accounts to the president as the executive.
No, so she accounts to you as parliament as well. That's not true.
Yeah, but on the direct operations, on daily operations, accounts to the president. We, when he appears to the portfolio committee, we will raise that particular matter with her, because we still have troops on
She's
the
already
ground.
appeared there.
Yeah.
Mr. Lekwete, you didn't raise it.
No. Go to the clip. You'll see very serious questions were asked by members of the portfolio committee.
I watched it. You didn't raise what she said on a public platform.
Yes.
Here, about the...
It is double standards. Rules for thee, but not rules for us. It is double standards. It is double standards. They think they can hold people accountable for the things that they are doing themselves. They believe that they are above. They believe that they are above. This is classic double standard. Classic double standard. He's talking about he's talking about accountability when it comes to the general. Accountability, left, right, and center. We need to rein in the general. How can the general go out and basically say that we have a Mickey Mouse military? How can the general say all of these things? But when it comes to Angie Motshekga saying the same things on the public platform, he's saying nothing. He's saying nothing. This is double standards. This is why these politicians believe that they are above us as the people. They are above us as the people. That's what they believe. That's what they believe, because if these people were honest people, they would have said that we want action to be taken against Angie Motshekga, because Angie Motshekga is busy saying things that are undermining our soldiers when they are on the battlefield. They could have said the same thing, but no, he is not even willing to say that action should be taken against Angie Motshekga. He's not even willing to say that. He's not.
Capacity constraints that exist specifically about the ships and the helicopters.
Yeah, we know that some of them we do have challenge in terms of our dockyard to have some of our vessels go in there in terms of other things. Those are things which were raised as part of the problem of the underfunding of the Defence Force, which happened for almost 15 years now, since the last supply chain process, which is normally referred to as the arms deal. There was a public outcry from some NGOs and some institutions to say there's too much that is given to.
So it's okay for the minister to raise that publicly, but not for General Mapaa?
No, I can't get into that particular argument. The executive both...
Why can't you get into that argument? Because it is the same argument. Why can't he get into the same argument? Because it is the same. It is the same argument.
At the level of the ministry, the general also, we are playing oversight. We have the burden of responsibility to defend South Africans.
Okay.
And the minister and the general, both of them, I'm sure those who are in charge of them must reign, because we can't say other things which can compromise over 2,000 of our troops which are still on the ground in a foreign land. Shouldn't
the priority also of the portfolio committee be on focusing on the concerns that have been raised? For instance, what significant action have you taken as Parliament to show that you truly care about addressing how vulnerable this country is? Look, with the SANDF that we have, with the capacity constraints that the SANDF is dealing with, what action have you taken as Parliament to ensure we are not vulnerable? Because we are.
Yeah, look, what we have done as a portfolio committee, we have engaged the executive, we have engaged the presidency. We are moving our budget from 0.7% to the GDP to 1.5%. We want to phase in eventually 2%, because the last time we had 1.4% of the budget to the GDP of the National Defence Force. It was about before the supply chain process, which is normally referred to as the arms deal. The president has agreed. We are meeting with Treasury on a close meeting this Friday to deal with that particular matter of how we are going to phase in the 1.5%, moving to 2%, so that we modernize our military capability, we modernize the ability of the National Defence Force to defend our territory and sovereignty. Because even now, we have a challenge from the criminal element. 29,000 South Africans die every year in the hands of criminals. They are gangsters, they are extortionists who undermine the sovereignty of the state. And we can't allow a situation that we have seen in other countries. There's a person, a gangster leader in Haiti and other countries of the Caribbean who took over a country in front of the Defence Force and everything. And we can't allow that possibility in our country. We have to act and act decisively.
Have you finalized your investigation on whether our soldiers in the DRC are there on a peacekeeping mission or an enforcement mission? Malusi Gigaba said that's an investigation that Parliament had started.
Yeah, you know that it is a peacekeeping mission from the information
It is not a peacekeeping mission. It is not.
that we have received from the Chief of the National Defense Force as well as the Minister, because we are in the DRC by resolution of the head of states of the SADC region, which is referred to as a SAMI DRC mission. We are also in the DRC through a United Nations Security Council resolution 2098 to go and assist the Central Africa, the Great Lakes, to bring peace and stability in that particular part of the continent. So the issue related to it being whatever, it's not questionable. But what we need to find out is to get the report of how it led to a situation where 14 of our soldiers perished and others got
So
injured.
you are not investigating whether our soldiers are there on a peacekeeping mission or an enforcement mission?
That question, we forwarded it to the executive, precisely even to give us a cost-benefit analysis of whether should we withdraw from that particular mission or what needs to be done in terms of bilateral agreements that we have signed with multilateral institutions.
But are you saying as Parliament, as a parliamentary portfolio committee, you are clear that this is a peacekeeping mission?
Is the briefing that we had.
And you are satisfied with that? You're not investigating further whether what you heard from the SANDF is actually the truth?
Look, any investigation or an inquiry, it's a matter that we can raise as the portfolio committee, but obviously it has to be approved by Parliament as a whole.
But nothing has been investigated so far?
So far, we are still awaiting the reports from the authorities.
The SANDF general said that the SANDF in the Eastern DRC are there to help neutralize the negative forces. And you know that that means M23, because that's what the DRC army is fighting. The very core conditions of a peacekeeping mission is that you've got to be neutral. How are we neutral as South Africa when we get into the DRC and we fight with the DRC army to neutralize the M23? That's not us being neutral. Isn't the condition for a peacekeeping mission that we have to be neutral?
Neutral, it's a correct word, because we are in the DRC through multilateral institutions, which are neutral, like the United Nations, like the SADC, and currently we have included the East Africa community, which agreed both with the SADC community that there needs to be a cessation of hostilities, a ceasefire.
But that's on paper, Mr. Legoet. I'm talking about the reality on the ground.
Of course, this is what the general said. And this is why I have made the case for a couple of videos where I basically said that these people are lying about us being in the DRC as the peacekeeping mission. It is not a peacekeeping mission. Guys, you remember that we made, I don't know how many videos that we've made so far about these people basically trying to lie to us to say that it is a peacekeeping mission. You remember even the Minister of Defense, the well-qualified, brilliant Manyathela once said that we were in the middle between the rockets flying from M23 and the DRC, and it happened that one of the rockets from the M23, it hit our base. So she basically tried to make it look like we are there and we are in the middle. We are not on the side of the DRC, and we are also not on the side of M23. But we learned through the general there of the South African National Defense Force, basically telling us the same thing that Clement Manyathela is saying, that we are on the side of DRC and we are neutralizing these people. So we are fighting there in the DRC. We are fighting in the DRC. So I don't know why these people keep saying that it is a peacekeeping mission. They are lying even to the families of the people that were killed in the DRC to say that we are in the DRC for peacekeeping. We are not in the DRC for peacekeeping. And this is what actually makes me insane, the fact that these people can look in their eyes. They can look in the eyes of those families to say that your child has died trying to maintain peace in the DRC. when they know for a fact that this child died in the DRC, fighting alongside the DRC, fighting against the M23. Oh my God.
I'm saying you agree that the peacekeeping mission, one of the conditions is that you've got to be a neutral party, right?
Yes, we are a neutral party.
How are we a neutral party when we are fighting with the DRC against the M23 rebels?
No, we have never been on any offensive charge against any of the establishment, military establishment in that part of the region, up until our bases were attacked.
But the president and our government has consistently criticized even Rwanda at the United Nations for arming the M23 rebels.
No, our soldiers, what happened as an altercation between us and them, it was acting in self-defense. We have never went on any mission where a country like South Africa undermined or acted as a defense force of any country. No, we've been in over 23 missions as the country, even to Central Africa, even to Mozambique, even to anywhere.
So we're not fighting with the DRC
No, we're not
army.
fighting with the rebels. And that's why
The DRC
only when
army.
we're attacked.
The DRC army is not the rebels. We are not fighting with the DRC army. Is that what you're saying?
We are there to ensure that everybody between the DRC and all other groups, it's over 140 groups. The popular one, it's called M23, but there are others which are there on the ground.
But
also.
we're not fighting with the DRC army.
No, we're not fighting with the DRC army.
Okay.
But like this is what the general has basically said. Guys, I'm sorry I have to look for this video because the man says that we are not fighting with the DRC, but this is what the general has said. The general has said it himself that we are fighting with the DRC. That we are fighting with the DRC. Oh my God, where is that video? The general did he say that we are fighting with the DRC. So this whole idea that
people.
Thank you.
Who lost of calamity. We in the South African National Defence Force come from the people and serve for the people. As such, we will march together with our people in the defence of our beloved South Africa, our motherland. It is with a heavy heart that I stand before you today to address the tragic loss of our brave South African National Defence Force soldiers who lost their lives in the DRC. These soldiers were part of Southern African Development Community Mission in the DRC, SAMI DRC, and the United Nations Organization Stabilization Mission in the DRC, MONUSCO. Both MONUSCO and SAMI DRC share a common mandate to support regional and international efforts in achieving lasting peace and security in the DRC. SAMI DRC and FIB, which is a component of MONUSCO, were both deployed with the mandate, among others, to support the Democratic Republic of Congo in neutralizing negative forces and armed groups in the eastern DRC in order to restore and maintain peace and security and create a secure environment.
And that is it. And that's it. The general did, like he did say, he did say that we are there deployed to fight alongside the DRC.
Okay, that's interesting because the president of the DRC is often so grateful to you at South Africa for being on the side of the DRC. But I hear you. Thank you so much for making time for us. I really appreciate it. Dakota Lekwete is the chair of the Parliamentary Committee on Defense. The question we've been asking you tonight is whether you think there's anything wrong with what Lieutenant General Nchabeni Mapanga said. The SANDF committee chair, as we've heard, Dakota Lekwete, has spoken about action that's needed to be taken against him. He spoke about issues of protocol and how when you say things like that in a position that is so high, that may cause consequences for our soldiers on the ground, but also affect the morale as well in the SANDF. Some of you have responded to that question. Kumo on Twitter says, Clement, he was just stating what is public knowledge about our borders and fact that our army is not well resourced to be big brother. It is not like he was revealing military secrets. If ours are not porous, how did al-Bashir, Bushiri, Guptas, etc. manage to leave the country? Mogale says, General Mapaha was truthful. We know that Minister Motshekga misled us into believing all is well in the SANDF, but the ANC will isolate and punish him for going public with his truth without fear, favor, or prejudice. South Africans must defend this general. Dean says, I think he was right, because when things are not going well within the SANDF, we blame them, not politicians, and I assume there must be something that pushed him to say whatever he said. Malikaya says he must be protected. He's an asset to this country. The politicians who think they can mislead South Africans are now exposed. The general understood his risks career-wise, but he said those truths from a deep love of his people and his country. Thank you.
So that is it, guys. That is it. The ANC is still trying to character assassinate Lieutenant General Mapaha to make him seem like a very evil man. To make him seem like a very evil man. You saw Dankota Lekwente when he was asked the same question about Angie Motshekga. Do you think that action needs to be taken against Angie Motshekga? Because even Angie Motshekga went on the public to say that we don't have this, we don't have the resources. Do you think that the same action should be taken against Angie Motshekga for basically going out in public and saying things about the South African National Defence Force? His tongue was caught like this. His tongue was caught like this because they believe in the double standard. They think that the general should be punished and the politicians like Angie Motshekga should be left alone for basically saying the same things. These are the type of politicians that we have. So it seems like the ANC, they're still on the mission to tarnish the name of Lieutenant General Mapaha, but South Africans are not going to allow that to happen. Guys, what do you think about these efforts of the ANC? Please tell me what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hit that like button and the most important part, subscribe. My name is Thomas Mabaso. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.